Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make techno in the style of Victor Ruiz. As usual, you get the project file and samples, and MIDI and presets, all of that stuff in this video in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. And yeah, let's dive in. So, first song that we have here is the lead, which sounds like this. So yeah, it's pretty simple. Basically, it's following this progression where it's going from G up to C, and then down to D sharp, and then up to A sharp. So it's like a down, 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 kind of like that. And then what's happening here is you can see I have this bouncing between the octaves at 16th notes. You can see like we go like and then up there it's going down. Here it goes up. I like to kind of like switch off. Like you notice again, like this one's going and then this one goes dun dun. It's kind of like switching it up a little bit. And you can see throughout this MIDI file here, I've done that with like every single note. So yeah, just kind of like cool way of making an interesting lead here because this has a lot of energy to it just from that kind of rhythm. And yeah, it's just a very like powerful style of lead. But the sound on this one is made using wavetable. What we have is, you can see, 2 saw waves. I've got the second one an octave and 7 semitones up. So it's an octave and a fifth up from the first oscillator. And yeah, pretty simple. Just got the amp envelope set like this. You can see I have it on the monophonic setting. And then the last thing here inside the synth is we've got a bit of unison, which is on the noise setting. We've got the voices at 30 and the amount at 24%. And yeah, that is it for inside the synth. I'll show this to you without the unison though really quick. And then with it. So you can hear why this is important. Like it really gives it that fullness that you need. And yeah, then after that we have a bit of chorus. Not a whole lot. You can see it's only on 9%. Here's without this. And then with it. It's subtle, but it just adds that extra little bit of like fullness into the lead. Then after that, we have this echo as well as some reverb. You can see both of these are not doing a whole lot. Like the dry wet is pretty low on both of them because like, you know, with something like this, like you really don't want it to be too overtaken with reverb and delay, but you do still want something. Because like if I turn these off, you can hear, I don't think it's going to sound as good. You know, they give it like a little bit of atmosphere. After that, we have a drum bus to fatten the sound up a bit. Here's without this. And then with it, you can hear this is important to really get that like fullness into the sound. Then after that, we have this auto pan, which I'm using to kind of simulate sidechaining this to the kick. Because like if you sidechain stuff to a reverb kick like this, or a rumble kick I should say, it's not really going to work that well because it's going to duck it out of the way like the whole time. But if you use an auto pan like this, you can see it's on the saw wave setting and I've got it inverted and then it's on quarter notes. And then we turn the phase down. So it's literally just sort of working with the volume there. And yeah, then after that we have this EQ8 just cutting out some low end, you know, making sure it doesn't get in the way of the kick. As you can hear without that, it does a little bit, but then we cut it out. And then I have a high end boost as well to make it a bit sharper. And that is it for the lead. After that we have this pad which sounds like this. So what this is doing here is you can see we have these root notes. And then we have these high notes. So what's happening is this is actually playing the fifths of the chord progression because we have the lead. You can see the lead, the root note is G. And then on this pad, the root note is D. And then for the second note, it's A sharp on the pad. And then D sharp on the lead. So yeah, it's just playing the fifths of what the lead is playing. You can see then these higher notes here are just an octave. Yeah, this kind of gives you a more interesting, like, musical sort of thing happening between these two. Because you can hear, like, if I just move this so that these are all just following what the lead is doing. It's not as exciting to listen to. It kind of feels a little bit more flat, but when you have it playing the fifths, you know, it kind of helps to put these in two different places, and you can really hear the pad and the lead equally, and they're really playing off of each other nicely in a musical way. For the sound on this one, it's made using operators. So the way that I made this one is a pretty simple sort of FM pad here. You can see we just have these 3 sine waves just set like this, literally just all at the same octave. And then I have the second one detuned a little bit. And then I just have a little bit of an LFO on the pitch of those oscillators. So that's giving it like a kind of like movement, like it's kind of warbling a little bit. If I turn the amount up, you can hear it. So yeah, just giving it like a little bit of that like warbly sort of thing. Then after that, we have a bit of chorus to spread the sound out and make it a bit bigger. Then we have some reverb to give it a bit of atmosphere and space, as you would imagine you would want with a pad. And then the last thing we have on here is an auto pan, doing that same sort of simulated sidechain that I had on the lead. And that is it for the pad. The next sound that we have here, and the last synth, is this little FM donk sound, which sounds like this. So yeah, like I said, this is your standard sort of FM, like, sort of bass. You could also play like some, it's like that kind of sound, you know? But yeah, so we just have this in here, and you can see it's just following the chord progression that's being established by the lead, where you can see this first time it plays G, second time it plays D sharp, and it's just kind of playing like that. You know, you don't want to have this playing too much. You just kind of have it come in and out at different times. And it's just in there to kind of provide something a little bit extra on top of the lead and pad, because just those on their own, you know, it feels like it needs something to make it a little bit more techno and a little bit less progressive. So that's where this comes in. It just gives us that like burn kind of like stab bass. For the sound on this one, it's made using operator. Like I said, this is a pretty standard FM sound. You can see we just have 3 sine waves here. I've got the envelopes set like more plucky, as you can see. And then we have these at these octaves. The first one is at 0.5, and then the second 2 are at 2. And then, yeah, the only other things that we have on there is just a little bit of reverb. The key with the reverb on this one is to keep it really short, because you don't want like a super long. You just want like this really quick, short sort of space like this. Here's without it. And then with it, you can hear it just makes it a bit bigger. You don't want it super long though, so I've just got the size and the K-time down. And then we have a saturator on there as well, making it a bit fatter and just kind of making it a bit more full. And that is it for the donk. After that, we have the kick, which sounds like this. So what we got going on here is a pretty standard sort of rumble kick. You can see it's really simple, really clean. We just have this kick sample. You know, it's really all about the kick sample that you put into it. If you have a really high quality kick sample, all you really need to do is just add some rumble to it and make it hit a little bit more. And it should be there. You shouldn't have to be doing all this like EQ and extra saturation and stuff. So we just have this really fat kick. There's the original sample. It's just a sample that I've made. And then you can see, yeah, I've got it in here in a simpler. We've got it going into this audio effect rack, which this is what's doing the rumble. You can see we've got a dry chain. And then we have the rumble chain. And on the rumble chain, the way we're doing this is we basically have a delay. So I'll turn all this stuff off. So we have a delay. Doing that. And then we put it into a distortion. Which you can hear, obviously the distortion makes it a bit messy. But it gives it that like rumbliness in the low end. And then we just low pass that so we get just the rumble. And there you go, that's how you make a rumble kick. And then I have a compressor side chaining that as well so it doesn't get in the way of the dry kick. And another thing is I have this EQ8 here on the rumble. So this really helps because a lot of times the rumble can be a bit messy. Like if I turn this off, you can hear it's very much in the same range as where the kick is hitting. like sort of this 100 hertz range. So if we make a cut there and then boost the low end, there we go. You can hear it fits in a lot better. Again, here's without this. And then with it. And I think this makes a big difference like in the club as well, because your track is going to sound a lot cleaner if everything is kind of in its own place, especially in the low end. But if you have all this like super rumbly 100 hertz stuff going on, it's going to get kind of messy. So it's just kind of nice to clean that up at the end of the rumble chain. But yeah, and then after that, on both the dry kick and the rumble kick, or the rumble I should say, is I just have this drum bus. Here's without it. And then with it, you can hear it's doing two things. It's gluing the rumble and the punch together, so it's kind of making them fit more like as one thing. And then it's also just making everything hit a little bit harder. Like it makes the kick punch a lot harder. It makes it really stand on top of the mix like this. I really have that like you need to really punch too. And yeah, that is it for the kick. After that, the last thing we have here are the hi-hats, which sound like this. So with these, you can see it's pretty simple. We just have a tambourine. And then I have this hi-hat, which is playing essentially on every other 16th note. Like if I zoom in, you can see. So you get like that kind of thing, which sounds really good when you add in this hi-hat, which is on the upbeats. And yeah, you can notice with this one, the main thing to keep in mind here is just like how big it sounds. Like you don't want just like a little, you need something that's really like with the body like this. And yeah, and again, like if I play just the tambourine and the open hi-hat, it's not quite as interesting as when you add in that extra one. We get that little. So yeah, just something to keep in mind with making your hi-hat, sort of like the detail layers there. And then I've just got those in a group. You can see we've got a bit of saturation and then a bit of EQ8 on the group. So here's without those. And then with them, you can hear the idea here is not to just have these like super blow the sound out and make it super huge just as a product of using these, but working with already like pretty solid sounds. Like without these, it still sounds pretty good. And then these just give it the extra like oomph to really sound as full and as professional as we want. So you can see I just have a little bit of saturation just to kind of beef these up and bring them closer together in volume. You could hear what that was doing, like without it and then with it, it really like pulls these together and makes them kind of feel closer. And then after that, we have an EQ8, which is just cutting out the low end a little bit and doing a very slight high end boost. I didn't want to do a whole lot, but you can hear without this. And then with it, it's a very subtle difference. But it's just adding that little bit of like high-end kind of sizzle to the hi-hats. And yeah, so that is it for the hi-hats. And that is also going to be it for this video, guys. So I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Let me know which video you want to see me make next. As usual, you get the project file and samples and MIDI and presets. Every single thing from this video that you just saw is available in the description, right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp. So definitely go check that out. It's a great way to support me. And yeah, thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.